Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Should I Craft It? It's the show where we aim to answer one simple question: should I craft this deck? And today's deck comes to us from Rarran, twitch.tv/Rarran. Go check them out. And it is a Cyclone Mage deck, a deck that I've enjoyed playing in the past. I do really like the old Mana Cyclone, as well as these kind of Conjurer's Calling tricks with Sea Giant, Mountain Giant, and Rabble Bouncer, which is one that I haven't played before. But it's definitely a powerful deck, has some extremely strong openings, some good tempo plays, can get a lot of value. But I think mostly the strength of the deck does rely on that kind of dropping a Mountain Giant early, hitting it with a Conjurer's Calling or two, maybe even throwing a Khadgar in there for good measure, and really just hoping that the extreme amount of just power that you put on the board is enough to take your opponent out. Now this deck is a pretty expensive one, so I thought it was a fantastic choice to do for this series. We do have all sorts of epic giants. We've got, 4 legendaries in here: Khadgar, Luna, Ziliax, Antonidas, even Conjurer's Callings are rare. Lots and lots of stuff in here. So we're going to jump into some games, play a bunch of them, and at the end, I'll give you my thoughts on should you craft this deck. Let's go.
It is on.
Okay. There's a mage, opposing mage here. Do we keep this Rabble Bouncer? I haven't played this deck with Rabble Bouncer, so I'm unsure. Unsure if we should keep this. I think not. I think we'll just go with the Sorcerer's Apprentice and send the back. Mugi, I am back making cartoon versions of myself in those makers. Oh, on the like Japanese and Korean, like I think there's some Chinese ones as well. They're like make yourself as an anime avatar thing. Yes, it's very on brand for you. Let's get this Sorcerer's Apprentice out and see if our opponent doesn't like it. Maybe we can get like a Ray of Frost out of their hand.
The future is ours.
Not exactly sure how to navigate
The
this,
future
but
is
I'm gonna
ours. Behold the tools of creation.
not exactly what I wanted. I guess we can just go for a trade here. We have a Luna, our opponent doesn't. And we lose our Sorcerer's Apprentice, but I guess it also makes our Mountain Giants cost 7, which is... Or rather, gets a card out of our hand, which is not great. Arcane Intellect. Magic Trick. Just gonna drop some mirror images. Can't say I agree with that. Okay, no, they're going off with Cyclone. I can definitely agree with that. We get 3. Alright. I kind of want to go Khadgar Mirror Image, but I feel if I do that, if our opponent has the Sea Giants, we're not going to be in a great position.
Behold the tools of creation. Behold the tools of creation.
Yeah, I think we'll stop at that.
Return to nothing.
Like we were saying, like, we could potentially coin this mirror image, but if our opponent has the Sea Giant, then we might just rough ourselves up a bit too much. Okay. Interesting if that was the kind of the best thing they could do. Of course, we really want our Conjurer's Calling off the top. I think we could possibly close this game out really, really quick. Not today, though.
Behold the tools of creation.
Don't mind if I do.
Behold the tools of creation. Return to nothing.
Just make it as hard as possible for our opponent to trade off with the Luna, as well as getting other advantages. GG. I think that might be, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way that matchup kind of plays out most of the time, where whoever does get that kind of big tempo play first gets the win. So it's probably the correct decision to trade in that Sorcerer's Apprentice early on. But let me know in the comments if you disagree, or if you think that there was a better line there, and why there was a better line. GG's.
Watch.
Okay, we're here with our first game,
You asked for it.
playing the Cyclone Mage. I do have a mulligan guide up here from HS Replay, not exactly for this deck, but for the archetype in general. Looks like we are looking for Mountain Giants, Banana Buffoons, Mana Cyclones, Conjurer's Calling, Arcane Intellect, Sorcerer's Apprentice, and it kind of drops off from there. So we've got a Sorcerer's Apprentice, so I'll keep that one. I'd be pretty tempted to keep this Magic Trick most of the time, but I think with these decks you really do want a mulligan for those really high impact cards, for those Mountain Giants and things like that. So hopefully we can hit one. No luck, but we do have two Sorcerer's Apprentices. As I mentioned before in our last Should I Craft It video, we are returning to Hearthstone for the first time in about a month and a half. So you will have to excuse me if I'm not used to a lot of the meta decks. Like right now, I can only assume that this is some kind of Pogo Hopper, or I don't know, a strange tempo rogue deck. Haven't seen too many Novice Engineer rogue lists. I think we might just go for the draw here. Try and hit the Mountain Giant so that we can drop it next turn. Oh, Spirit of the Shark. Delicious for our opponents. I really want to give them too much value. Like, I guess we can probably predict an SI7 or something like that in our future. So maybe we want to leave this Sorcerer's Apprentice at home. Ruru. If it's just the Blink Fox, it might not be the worst thing. Cable rats. Right on. Can we do anything with this Sea Giant this turn? Don't think so. I mean, Vanish isn't around anymore, so maybe we just push the pedal, push the gas. Do the gas thing, go fast. I think we want to go fast. Someday
I'll be just like you.
I guess.
Have enough mana. Time runs out on me.
Yeah, go with that. Not 100% on that play. I think without Vanish around and with our opponent clearly trying to set up some kind of Shark turn. I think, yeah, maybe just going for it here is gonna make our opponent have to react. Like, they can't just sit back. Maybe given that we got a counterspell off of the magic trick, we could have held on for a turn and tried to set up the counterspell. So if they have yeah, sap's not too bad. I was thinking more like walk the plank.
Double time
And double pay.
Too soon.
And if they... Yeah, okay. No attack though. How curious. Alright, let's see what happens. Still unsure really what our opponent's end game is. Like, is there going to be a hook tusk here? Pick. Okay. Pick, Vendetta. Hit it with my pick. Take 8. Alright.
Unity, precision, perfection. No!
We're still lacking that punch. I think we really need to try and... We need to hope to hit a mountain giant. Or even a rubber bounce or something like that very soon. Ugh. Life drinker. Hopefully they don't have too much worse than that. Pick bouncing. Yeah, wow.
Ha, this guy's a toast.
Oh, SI7 instead. Okay. And Shadow Step on the shark. Okay. Spin the wheel.
Job done.
Oh, the basic minion special, Magma Ranger and River Crocolisk. Oof. Can't imagine this counterspell is going to do too much. Might goof our opponent though.
Options.
But we've restocked our hand. There's a reasonable number of things on board. A lot of our giants are good draws. 16 cards left in the deck. There's the other pick. There's the second pick. I think we might require his assistance.
What to do? What to do?
Golden Lady. Oh, the golden mirror image. Yes, Moogie.
How it
We gotta play the fancy ones.
Oh, up to no good. Me too.
I'm kind of liking how our opponent's playing this. Like, maybe you just have to play this in the matchup, where you just really aggressively defend. Aggressively defend your shot.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
It's a big Van Cleef. Should we still have that frost level? Yeah, I think we needed the Frost Nova for this turn.
I wonder. Time runs out on me.
We must band together, united for dAwA.
We do have lethal, but maybe they do have lethal, but maybe our opponent goofs. Yeah, with the secret up. They might think it's like an ice barrier or something. Nothing came teeth. Take that, radioactive man.
From nothing, power.
Was that first Vendetta in their deck? I would assume so. Assume all these Vendettas are. That's wanted.
Choose soon.
I guess the big, you know, the exclamation mark should really tell me. Well, this is the saddest mountain giant you've ever seen.
You require my assistance. Aha!
Nice. Am I still dead? Probably. See what happens. Maybe our opponent attacks with a waggle pick first. Bounces their own Van Cleef to their hand. I think they figured it out. That was an interesting one. I think definitely we spotted the misplay, which is that we probably should have held on to the Frost Nova. I think we didn't really hit our giants in the right order that we needed to, but we could also definitely change our play to maybe rather than have played that Sea Giant earlier, we could have tried to save up a bit of mana or set up a board state where we can drop the Sea Giant and then Conjurer's Calling in the same turn. But still, well played to our opponent. GG.
Order on.
You asked for it.
Alright, up against Paladin here. Interesting options. I mean, we could keep the Conjurer's Calling Rabble Bouncer. What are Paladin decks doing these days? So this is definitely, if you're the kind of person who maybe doesn't play too much, you can always... I always recommend, if you're up against a class, you're not sure what's going on, jump onto HS Replays, of course. Leave a link in the description. And just check out what decks are doing, so I can kind of see, like, Mech Paladin, Holy Wrath Paladin, that's kind of the popular choices at the moment. So I think we'll send back the Evocation, keep the Arcane Intellect in these two. Hopefully our opponent's going to get on the board early, drop a bunch of stuff, we can Rabble Bouncer, Conjurer's Calling early, and hey, there's a Mountain Giant as well, which goes great with our Arcane Intellect. So good Good mulligans there. Christology. So Christology, I think, is more of a Holy Wrath card, unless I am mistaken. Let's see if Mech. They are playing Christology and Mech Paladin, so. So if this is Mech, I can imagine we have a reasonable win rate against the archetype. Call to Adventure. Ooh, okay, maybe not. None of the Holy Wrath or Mech decks that I'm looking at right now have those cards in there. Let's just go for a Buffoon. Set ourselves up for the Mountain Giant next turn. And our opponent will have to have something pretty good in order to get through that. And if they don't, we've got the Conjurer's Calling right after. In fact, this is just a really stacked hand. It's interesting that the Rebel Bouncer has kind of become the worst card in it. Prismatic Lens. So this is definitely Holy Wrath. So let's... So this Holy Wrath could have an answer for it. Definitely have Shrink Rays and things like that. I think just committing the one Mountain Giant is probably a good idea. As if they do have the Shrink Ray, they might have to just raw Shrink Ray, and then we can Conjurer's Calling, and they have to have the second one. Keep these bananas just in case we get a Sorcerer's Apprentice. We can have a big Cyclone turn. So yeah, they've got Pyros and Shrink Rays and things like that. Galvanizer. My god. Okay, I definitely have no idea what's happening here. I can only assume we're about to get wrecked by a Mechathune? I don't know. What is happening? I definitely want to trade here. I think the reason I played this is so that we can Ray of Frost.
Out on me.
Yeah, let's get a Spellbender up. Canoic.
Access denied. Converting stored energy.
Okay, so it is Mech Paladin. I was freaking out for a second. This is cool.
Protocol 7 engaged.
Well, we can't just Conjurer's Calling it. No, which I think is going to be our best option here.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Alright, let's see if they have a Shrink Ray in this Mech deck. Okay.
Access denied.
Reporting for duty.
You're 913, hey? I think we're willing to trade off one of these.
Cower before me!
This out first.
Arena's full.
Cower before me! The battle is over.
Woo! Alright. We were a bit rusty. I'm sure you were all looking at my face as the gears were ticking, but I think I think that's how we're supposed to play it. We even had the Frost Nova there as well, which we could have gone for. Like, we could have, like, Conjurer's Calling Frost Nova that turn. But play a little bit less risky, I mean. That Robozaur is a pretty high mana cost, so some good stuff can pop out. But GG's. Alright, we are here with the conclusion of Should I Craft It with Rarran's Cyclone Mage. And I think it is an overwhelming and a resounding yes. You should craft this deck. Of course, it is quite expensive, so I think that this is a yes if you have most of the deck and maybe you are umming and ahhing on one or two of the legendaries or something like that. Maybe you've got a lot of legendaries, you just needed to, figure out if you want to craft some giants or something like that. But I think if you're most of the way there, definitely craft this deck. There's a couple of legendaries you might not need. You could probably cut the Khadgar, and maybe you could even cut like the Sandbinder and stuff like that. But I think the archetype itself is very strong. I think a lot of these legendaries, either things like Ziliax, which are very malleable, you can use them in a lot of different decks, or they're cards like Antonidas, which is shown to always pop up in Mage decks. So I think those are some really good crafts. I think the Giants always show up, whether they be Sea Giant in aggro decks or Mountain Giant in control decks. So I think those are great crafts as well. But yeah, I would say that if you're not very close to this deck, if you're missing, 3 or more of the legendaries, I would say do not craft this deck. I think you're better off saving your dust and spending it in better places. For the cost of one legendary, you can usually buy a pretty reasonable budget deck. So that would be my conclusion. I really love the deck. Big shout out to Rarran for it. Of course, if you are watching on YouTube, you can find all the links in the description. That's got a link over to the Hearthstone deck article. It's also got my HS Replays link if you wanted to get some of the best stats in the game. And you wanted to get HS Replays Premium, you can use that link, and it'll give me a little bit of a benefit. It knocks a little bit of the cost off of my subscription, which really helps out the channel, really helps me out. But until next time, I think that's it. Stay safe, stay wavy, eat the rich, and conjure all the boys. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed that video. Check out other ones over here, or come subscribe to the Wave Pool for more excellent times.